September 1st, 2005 dawned crisp and clear, the morning I'd leave for Beihan University to begin my aerospace journey. My suitcases stood ready, packed with dreams, textbooks, a telescope, a star chart, each a testament to the future I'd reclaimed. Last night, Ethan's reborn plea had stirred old ghosts, but my rejection had severed the last threads of my past life. I was no longer the girl who'd sacrificed everything for him. As I checked my train ticket, a commotion outside jolted me. Sirens wailing, tires screeching. My mother peered through the window. "What now?" she muttered. We stepped outside, the neighborhood pulsing with chaos. Police cars and an ambulance clogged the street, lights flashing against the Way family's house. My father's face paled. "It's the Weiss," he said, slamming on the brakes as we pulled closer. My stomach twisted, Ethan's words from last night echoing, "I'm reborn too." Had his desperation turned violent? Neighbors whispered, and I caught fragments. Blood, a fight, someone dead. My mother grabbed my arm. "Emily, stay back." But I needed to know. Paramedics emerged, wheeling out a stretcher draped in a white sheet. Mrs. Way's wail pierced the air, and Mr. Way held her as she collapsed. Ethan followed, blood-soaked, his wheelchair pushed by a medic, his face ashen. Beside him was Jake, Sophie's lover, bandaged but alive, his eyes wild. Police swarmed, and one officer was barking. "Secure the scene." My father, called Mr. Way, had an urgent voice. "Tom, what happened?" The answer came later, at the police station, where we went to support the Weiss. My train departure was delayed. Jake's confession spilled out under pressure. "It was last night," he stammered. "Sophie and I were at Ethan's. His parents were at the company. We were messing around right in front of him." Ethan snapped. "He's reborn," he said. "Knew Sophie played him. He grabbed a knife and came at us in the dark. I fought back, and Sophie, she stabbed him, said it was self-defense. I didn't mean for anyone to die." The officer slammed the table. "Then why's there a body?" Jake's voice broke. "Ethan's still alive, barely. Sophie, she's gone. I didn't know she'd bleed out." My breath caught. Sophie, dead by her hand, her greed and betrayal were her undoing. In my past life, she'd taken everything. Ethan's assets, my savings, living lavishly while I scraped by. Now karma had struck, her schemes unraveling in blood. Clinging to life, Ethan lashed out, his reborn awareness fueling a final desperate act. I felt no pity for Sophie, only a grim satisfaction, but the Weiss's anguish, Mrs. Way's sobs, Mr. Way's haunted stare, cut deep. They'd lost their son's future, their wealth, and now faced this tragedy. At the station, Mr. Way approached, his voice hollow. "Emily, Ethan's in surgery. He's calling for you. Please, one last time." I shook my head, my resolve ironclad. "I'm sorry, Mr. Way. I can't. I'm leaving for Beihan." My father nodded, lying for me. "She's got a train to catch, Tom." I turned away, the weight of my choice heavy but right. I'd have run to Ethan in my past life, losing myself in his pain. Now I chose my future, the stars waiting beyond his chaos. We left for the station, the city blurring past. My mother's phone buzzed at 5 a.m. the next day. A message from Mrs. Way. "Ethan's gone. He didn't make it." I stared at the words, my lips pressed tight. No tears came, only a quiet release. Like mine, Ethan's reborn life had offered a chance to change, but he'd clung to Sophie, to vengeance, and it had consumed him. I texted back, "Please take care of Mr. and Mrs. Way." My mother hugged me, sensing my closure. "You're free now, Emily," she whispered. 4 years later, in June 2009, I graduated from Beihan with honors and was accepted into a combined master's and PhD program in aerospace engineering. The Weiss had sold their home and moved to a smaller town, and their company went bankrupt under the scandal's weight. Sophie's death had led to Jake's conviction, her family shamed, and her dreams of wealth in dust. I stood on Beihan's campus, the night sky a canvas of stars. In my past life, I'd been Ethan's nanny, my potential buried. Now I was Emily, unbound, my eyes on the cosmos. I traced Orion's belt, a vow forming. "Ethan, Sophie, may we never meet again, in this life or any other." My heart was light, my journey complete. The pain of my past had forged me, but it no longer held me. I stepped forward, ready to soar, the universe mine to conquer. June 7, 2005, dawned with a clarity that felt unreal. I I stood in my childhood bedroom, the mirror reflecting a younger me, 17, unburdened by years of sacrifice, my hands soft and free of calluses. The cosmic light that had granted me rebirth still lingered in my memory, a promise of redemption. Today was the college entrance exam, the pivotal moment when, in my past life, I'd chased after Ethan, saving him from a car crash at the cost of my dreams. His dying words echoed in my mind. "You ruined my life." This time I would not let his choices define me. I would choose myself. Downstairs, my mother's voice called, urgent yet familiar. "Emily, hurry! We can't be late for the exam!" I grabbed my pencil case, my heart pounding, not fearing the test, but with the weight of what I knew would unfold. My father's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel as we piled into the car. "You've worked hard, Emily," he said. "Score high, and aerospace is yours." His words stirred a flicker of hope, but also a pang of guilt. I'd let them down in my past life, trading their pride for Ethan's survival. Could I walk away from him now? The streets buzzed with students and parents rushing toward the exam hall. My mother checked her watch, muttering about traffic. I sat in the back seat, staring out the window when I saw Ethan's sleek black car, the one he'd borrowed from his father in my past life. He was behind the wheel, his face taut with desperation. I knew where he was going. Sophie, his first love, had broken up that morning, shattering his focus before the exam. He'd speed after her, reckless and blind, straight into the crash that would change everything. My breath caught. The memory of that day flooded back. Screeching tires, twisted metal, Ethan's bloodied face as I dragged him from the wreckage. I'd missed the afternoon exams, my score plummeting from 700 to 400, my aerospace dreams reduced to ash. Part of me, the girl who'd loved him silently for years, screamed to follow and save him again. But another part, hardened by his betrayal, whispered a truth. Ethan had never valued me. He'd called me a nanny, given his wealth to Sophie, and blamed me for his pain. Why should I sacrifice for him again? "Emily, you okay?" my mother asked, glancing back. I nodded, forcing a smile. "Just nervous," I lied. The car slowed as we neared the school, and Ethan's vehicle roared past, weaving through traffic. My father cursed under his breath. "That kid's going to kill someone driving like that." My mother sighed. "That's Ethan. I heard Sophie dumped him today. Poor boy's a mess." Their words mirrored my past life, a script I knew by heart. But this time, I wouldn't play my old role. The exam hall loomed ahead, a gray building buzzing with anxious energy. As we parked, I saw Ethan's car disappear around a corner, its engine a fading growl. My heart twisted. One last chance to intervene, to repeat my mistake. I clenched my fists, nails biting into my palms. "No," I whispered to myself, "not this time." I stepped out of the car, and the morning air was cool against my skin. My parents flanked me, their presence a reminder of who I was fighting for, not just myself, but the family I'd let down. Inside, I found my seat, the exam papers crisp under my fingers. The proctor's voice droned through instructions, but my mind wandered to Ethan. Was he crashing now, his legs mangled as they had been? A wave of guilt washed over me, heavy and cold. I'd loved him once, believed in his promises. Letting him face his fate felt like abandoning a piece of myself. But then I remembered the ICU, his cruel words, Sophie's name on his lips as he died, that Emily was gone. I picked up my pencil, steadying my trembling hand. The first question blurred before me, then sharpened. Math, my strength. I dove in, solving equations with a focus I hadn't felt in years. Each answer was a step away from Ethan, a brick in the foundation of my new life. The clock ticked relentlessly, but I kept pace, my guilt fading with every page. By the time the bell rang, signaling the morning session's end, I felt lighter, as if I'd shed a weight I'd carried for decades. I stepped outside, the sun high, and saw my parents waiting, their faces bright with hope. "You did it, didn't you?" my father asked, grinning. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. As we walked to the car for the afternoon session, a distant siren wailed, faint but unmistakable. My mother frowned. "An ambulance. I hope everyone's okay." I said nothing, my gaze fixed ahead. Ethan's fate was no longer mine to carry. Today, I'd chosen my future, and nothing, not love, not guilt, would pull me back. The afternoon sun hung heavy over the hospital, its light filtering through the waiting room's grimy windows. I stood by the vending machine, my exam papers still crisp in my bag, the ink of my answers a quiet victory. Hours earlier, I'd chosen myself over Ethan, letting him speed toward his fate while I secured my future in the exam hall. Now, the consequences of that choice unfolded in the sterile corridors of St. Mary's Hospital, where Ethan lay fighting for his life. The sirens I'd heard after the exam had led me here, to a familiar and strange scene from my past life. My parents sat nearby, their faces etched with worry. My mother clutched a tissue, her eyes red from silent tears. My father stared at the floor, his hands clasped tightly. Across the room, Ethan's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Way, were a study in grief. Mrs. Way's sobs echoed, raw and unrestrained, while Mr. Way stood rigid, his jaw clenched, as if holding back a scream. I'd consoled them in my past life, sacrificing my dreams to pull Ethan from the wreckage. This time, I was a bystander, my heart torn between relief and a creeping unease. A doctor emerged from the operating room, his scrubs stained with sweat. "Mr. and Mrs. Way," he said, his voice heavy. "Ethan's stable, but the accident was severe. His leg sustained critical damage, and the delayed rescue, over an hour before he was found, worsened the trauma. He's likely facing permanent paralysis. If recovery stalls, amputation may be necessary." Mrs. Way collapsed into her husband's arms, her wails cutting through the room. Mr. Way's face crumpled, his strength giving way to despair. "Our only son," he whispered. "All our hopes." My mother reached for my hand, her grip tight. "Emily, thank God you're safe," she murmured. I nodded, but my gaze drifted to my hands, smooth, unscarred, free of the calluses I'd earned in my past life caring for Ethan. In that life, I'd missed the exams to save him, my score plummeting, my aerospace dreams buried under years of nursing. Now I'd completed every section, my future intact. Yet the Way family's anguish tugged at me, a reminder of the cost of Ethan's obsession with Sophie. Mr. Way approached us, his eyes hollow. "Joe, Mary," he told my parents. "Thank you for coming." Ethan, he was always so bright, so driven. Top of his class, destined for greatness. But this girl, Sophie, broke up with him right before the exam. He took my car and chased after her like a fool. "Now look at him." His voice broke. "Our company's already struggling. The media caught wind of Ethan driving without a license. Clients are pulling out, and we're facing fines. Everything we built for him, it's crumbling." My father placed a hand on Mr. Way's shoulder. "You'll get through this, Tom. Ethan's strong. He'll fight." But his words sounded hollow, and Mrs. Way's renewed sobs filled the silence. I remembered this moment from my past life, how I'd vowed to help Ethan walk again and let his parents' pain become my own. This time, I stood apart, my resolve hardening. Ethan's choice to chase Sophie had led him here, not me. Still, the Way family's suffering gnawed at me. They didn't deserve this, not for their son's reckless love. A nurse wheeled Ethan out, his face pale under a tangle of bandages. His legs, immobilized in casts, looked frail, starkly contrasting with the confident boy I'd once known. Mrs. Way rushed to his side, stroking his hair, while Mr. Way gripped the bed rail, tears streaming down his face. My parents stood frozen, their shock mirroring the scene from my past. I stayed back, my eyes locked on Ethan. I'd seen this as my duty in my past life, to save and fix him. I saw only a boy who'd thrown away everything for a girl who didn't care. "Emily," my mother whispered, "are you okay?" I forced a nod, my throat tight. Guilt flickered, not for Ethan, but for the Weiss. They'd treated me like a daughter in my past life, even as Ethan betrayed me. Watching them now, I felt a pang of sorrow. Not enough to change my path, but enough to remind me of the girl I'd been, who'd loved too deeply. I turned away, focusing on the weight of my exam papers in my bag. They were honest, tangible, a promise of the future I'd fought for. As we left the hospital, the evening air was thick with the scent of rain. My father drove in silence, my mother dabbing her eyes. "Poor Tom and Lily," she said. Their whole world was Ethan. I stared out the window, the city lights blurring past. Ethan's fate was sealed, not by me, but by his desperation. I felt a quiet satisfaction, a sense that karma was at work. Yet the Way family's pain lingered in my mind. a shadow I couldn't entirely shake. I pushed it aside for now, clinging to the truth. I'd chosen my dreams today, and no one, not even Ethan, could take them away. The hospital's fluorescent lights faded behind us as we drove home, the city's hum a distant murmur against the weight of silence in the car. My parents, still reeling from Ethan's accident, spoke in hushed tones, their words circling the Way family's grief. I sat in the back seat, my exam papers a quiet anchor in my lap, their crisp edges grounding me in this reborn life. June 7th, 2005, had ended with my future intact, but the day's events, Ethan's crash, his parents' despair, stirred memories of my past life, pulling me into a tide of regret and resolve. That night, alone in my room, I couldn't sleep. The moonlight cast long shadows across my desk, where my aerospace textbooks waited, untouched since morning. My mind drifted to my life before, where I'd traded everything for Ethan. The memories came unbidden, vivid and sharp, like a wound reopened. I saw myself at 17, my heart racing as I spotted Ethan's car speeding after Sophie, his first love, who'd broken his heart hours before the college entrance exam. In that life, I'd followed him, fear overriding reason, and witnessed the crash, metal crumpling, glass shattering, Ethan's blood pooling on the pavement. I'd dragged him from the wreckage, my hands trembling, and stayed until the ambulance arrived, missing the afternoon exams. My score, once a near-perfect 700, plummeted to 400, my dream of aerospace engineering slipping away. I'd planned to retake the exam, but Ethan's proposal changed everything. He knelt before me, his eyes wet with gratitude. "You saved me, Emily," he'd said. "Without you, I'd have lost my legs. You gave up your dreams for me. Let me repay you. Be with me, please." His words, so earnest, had ignited the silent love I'd carried for years. I hesitated, asking, "What about Sophie?" His face darkened. "She's the reason I'm like this. I hate her." Blinded by love, I said yes. I enrolled in nursing, abandoning aerospace to help Ethan recover. For years, I was his caretaker, cooking, cleaning, massaging his legs through grueling therapy. My hands grew calloused, my joints swollen from endless chores, but I never complained. When he walked again, I believed our future was bright. He launched a business, and I ran errands, secured loans, and built his success from the shadows. But I overheard him with his assistant on the night of his company's grand celebration. "Invite Sophie as my date," he said, smirking. "Emily? She's just a nanny." The betrayal cut deeper than any physical pain. I stood outside the door, clutching my dress, humiliation burning through me. Later, when Ethan's health failed, landing him in the ICU, he sealed his cruelty. He transferred all his assets, our home, his business, even my small savings, to Sophie, leaving me destitute. As he died, he blamed me for his separation from her, calling my sacrifices a manipulation. I'd given him everything, my youth, my dreams, my love, and he'd seen me as nothing. Now, reborn, I sat on my bed, tears pricking my eyes. The girl who'd loved Ethan was still inside me, whispering that I could have saved him today, that my choice to let him crash was cold. I pressed my palms to my face, fighting the guilt. Had I been wrong to abandon him? But then I remembered his final words, his sneer as he gave Sophie my life's work. That memory steeled me. Ethan had chosen his path, chasing a woman who didn't care, just as he'd decided to discard me. My love had been a mistake, but it wasn't my fault. I rose and opened my aerospace textbook, the equations a lifeline to my future. I'd let Ethan's needs eclipse my passion in my past life. This time, I'd let him face the consequences of his obsession. The Way family's pain lingered in my mind, Mrs. Way's sobs, Mr. Way's broken voice, but I couldn't save them without losing myself again. I traced a formula with my finger, and its logic steadied me. The guilt ebbed, replaced by a quiet determination. I wasn't the nanny anymore. I was Emily, reborn to reclaim her dreams. Outside, a distant siren wailed, a reminder of the world I'd left behind. I closed the book and lay back, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow, I'd face the aftermath of Ethan's accident, but tonight, I held tight to my victory. The exams were done and my score is secure. I felt hope for the first time in 2 lifetimes, not for Ethan, but for me. The shadows of my past would always linger, but they wouldn't define me. I closed my eyes, ready to build a future that was mine alone. June 8, 2005, broke with a gray dawn, the air heavy with the threat of rain. I sat at the breakfast table, my aerospace textbooks open, their equations a refuge from the hospital's lingering echoes. Yesterday's college entrance exams had secured my future, a stark contrast to my past life, where I'd sacrificed everything for Ethan. His accident, a consequence of chasing Sophie, had left him paralyzed, and the Way family's grief weighed on my mind. As I traced a formula, the doorbell rang, sharp and insistent, pulling me back to the present. My mother opened the door, and Mrs. Way's voice, raw with desperation, spilled into the house. "Mary, please, I need to talk." I followed my mother to the living room where Mrs. Way stood, her face gaunt, her eyes red-rimmed from crying. Mr. Way lingered behind, his shoulders slumped, the confident businessman I'd known, reduced to a shadow. My father joined us, his brow furrowed. "Lily, Tom, what's wrong?" he asked, gesturing to the couch. Mrs. Way sank into it, clutching a crumpled tissue, her hands trembling. "It's Ethan," she said, her voice breaking. "He's our only child, our everything. We poured our lives into him, his education, his dreams. He was at the top of his class and destined for a university like Beihan. But now—" She choked back a sob. "The doctors say he may never walk again. And the media, they're tearing us apart. Ethan was driving without a license, and the news is everywhere. Our company, Way Enterprises, is crumbling. Clients are canceling contracts, and we've been hit with a massive fine for a breached deal. We're borrowing to keep the lights on. Mr. Y nodded, his voice hollow. "We thought we could protect him, give him the world. But Sophie, this girl he loved, she broke his heart yesterday, sent him spiraling. He took my car, chased her, and now our boy's broken, and our future's gone with him." His words carried a quiet rage, not at Ethan, but at the unfairness of it all. I stood by the doorway, my heart aching for them. In my past life, I'd seen their pain and made it my own, nursing Ethan back to health at the cost of my dreams. This time, I'd chosen differently, but their suffering cut deeper than I'd expected. My mother reached for Mrs. Way's hand. "Lily, Ethan's strong. He'll fight through this, and you'll rebuild." But her comfort sounded thin against the weight of their loss. Mrs. Way looked at me, her eyes pleading. "Emily and Ethan grew up together. You were so close, like siblings. I know you've got your exams, your future, but could you talk to him? He's shutting us out, refusing treatment. Maybe he'd listen to you." Her words stirred a storm inside me. The old Emily, the one who'd loved Ethan unquestioningly, would have rushed to his side, sacrificing everything to ease his pain. But I wasn't that girl anymore. I remembered his dying words in my past life, calling me a nanny, blaming me for his misery while giving everything to Sophie. Yet the Way family's despair, Lily's tears, Tom's broken pride, tugged at the part of me that still cared for them. They'd treated me like a daughter, even when Ethan betrayed me. Refusing them felt like betraying that bond. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "Mrs. Way, I'm so sorry for what you're going through," I said softly. "I'll visit Ethan, but I can't stay long. I'm preparing for aerospace, and I have to focus on that." Her face softened with gratitude, but a flicker of disappointment crossed her eyes. Mr. Way nodded, his voice barely audible. "Thank you, Emily. We know you've got your path. We don't know what else to do." My father cleared his throat. "Tom, if you need money or support, say the word. We're here." Mr. Way managed a weak smile, but the strain in his eyes told me they were already drowning. As they left, my mother pulled me aside. "Emily, are you sure about this? Helping Ethan could pull you back into his mess." I met her gaze, my resolve firm. "I'm not assisting Ethan, Mom. I'm helping the Ways because they don't deserve this. But I won't lose myself again." That afternoon, I walked to the hospital, and my exam success was a quiet strength. The Way family's plight lingered, a reminder of the ripple effects of Ethan's choices. I felt a pang of guilt, not for letting him crash, but for the collateral damage to those who loved him. Yet, I knew my boundaries. I'd offer a moment's comfort, nothing more. As I entered the hospital, the antiseptic smell hit me, a ghost of my past life's endless caregiving. I squared my shoulders, ready to face Ethan, not as his savior, but as a girl reclaiming her future, untouched by his chaos. June 9th, 2005 carried the weight of a new beginning. I sat at my desk, my aerospace textbooks open, their pages promising the future I'd fought for. The college entrance exams were behind me, my score secure, but yesterday, the Way family's visit lingered like a bruise. Mrs. Way's plea for me to talk to Ethan had stirred a reluctant empathy. Not for him, but his parents, whose lives were unraveling because he was obsessed with Sophie. As I jotted notes, my phone buzzed with a message from a classmate. Check Sophie's social media. She's living her best life while Ethan's in the hospital. Curiosity, laced with disdain, pulled me to my laptop. Sophie's profile was a curated display of glamour. Photos of her dancing in sleek studios, her smile radiant, captioned with hashtags like Dream Chaser and Had New Beginnings. One post, time-stamped yesterday, showed her laughing with friends at a cafe, her elegance untouched by Ethan's tragedy. The contrast was stark. While the Weiss drowned in debt and despair, Sophie thrived, indifferent to the boy who'd risked everything for her. I'd barely known her in my past life, seeing only the dancer Ethan idolized. Now, reborn, I needed to understand the woman who'd shaped my ruin. I dug deeper, scrolling through older posts and mutual connections. A classmate's comment on Sophie's page hinted at her backstory. From nothing to shining, girl, you're unstoppable. I followed the thread, piecing together fragments. Sophie grew up in a struggling family, her parents scraping by on factory wages. Dance was her escape, a talent that won her scholarships but not stability. High school whispers painted her as an ambitious, charming boy like Ethan to fund her dreams. Her breakup with him on exam day wasn't impulsive. It was a calculated move, a test to bind him to her, ensuring his family's wealth would follow. The realization hit like a cold wave. Sophie hadn't just broken Ethan's heart, she'd orchestrated his desperation, knowing he'd chase her, risking everything. Her indifference now, partying while he lay paralyzed, wasn't cruelty, but strategy. She saw Ethan as a means to an end, his devotion a currency for her freedom. In my past life, she'd reaped the rewards, accepting Ethan's assets as he died, leaving me destitute. This time, I wouldn't let her glide through unscathed. But confronting her directly felt reckless. Instead, I drew her out to see how far her mask would hold. I opened our old chat thread, my fingers hesitating over the keyboard. In my past life, I'd begged Sophie to visit Ethan, hoping to ease his pain. I typed purposefully, Sophie, Ethan's in bad shape at St. Mary's. His parents are broken. He keeps asking for you. Can you come? I hit send, my pulse quickening. This wasn't about saving Ethan. It was about exposing Sophie's true colors, letting her actions reveal the greed beneath her grace. If she ignored him, it would shatter his illusions. If she came, her motives would betray her. Waiting for a reply, my thoughts drifted to my past life. I'd been naive, believing love could overcome Ethan's fixation on Sophie. I'd poured years into his recovery, only to be called a nanny, my sacrifices mocked. The memory stung, but it also clarified my resolve. I wasn't that girl anymore, blinded by devotion. Yet, a flicker of doubt lingered. Was I slipping back into Ethan's orbit by messaging Sophie, meddling in a drama I'd vowed to escape? I shook my head, grounding myself. This was different. I was in control, using Sophie to unravel Ethan's delusions, not to save him. Hours later, my phone pinged. Sophie's reply was curt. I'll visit tomorrow. Busy today. The brevity was telling. No concern, no warmth, just obligation. I leaned back, a grim satisfaction settling in. She'd come, not out of care, but to protect her image or secure her hold on the Weiss's wealth. I closed my laptop and the aerospace equations were calling me back. Tomorrow, I'd visit Ethan as promised, but only to honor the Weiss's trust. Sophie's arrival would be the spark, igniting the truth about her ambitions. Outside, rain began to fall, a soft patter against the window. I thought of the Weiss, Mrs. Way's trembling hands, Mr. Way's hollow eyes, and felt a pang of sorrow. Their suffering was Ethan's doing, but Sophie's manipulation had fanned the flames. I wouldn't let her ruin them further. As I returned to my studies, my resolve hardened. This life was mine, and no one, not Ethan, not Sophie, would pull me back into their chaos. I'd watch Sophie's mask slip tomorrow, and Ethan's last illusions would crumble. June 10th, 2005 dawned with a restless energy, the sky a patchwork of clouds threatening rain. I walked to St. Mary's Hospital, and my promise to Mrs. Way pulled me forward despite the resolve to keep Ethan at a distance. Yesterday, I'd messaged Sophie, urging her to visit him, not out of concern, but to expose her calculated indifference. My aerospace textbooks waited at home, a reminder of the future I was building. But the Way family's suffering, Mrs. Way's tears, Mr. Way's broken pride, compelled me to honor their trust, if only briefly. As I entered the hospital, the antiseptic smell stirred memories of my past life, where I'd spent years as Ethan's caretaker. This time, I vowed, I'd leave untouched by his chaos. Ethan's room was on the third floor, its door ajar. I paused, steeling myself. In my past life, I'd rushed to his side after the accident, sacrificing my dreams to nurse him back to health. Now, reborn, I was here for his parents, not him. Inside, Ethan lay propped against pillows, his face pale, his legs encased in casts. His eyes, once bright with confidence, were dull, fixed on the ceiling. He didn't notice me until I cleared my throat. "Emily," he said, his voice weak but laced with surprise. "You came. I said Mrs. Way asked me to check on you, keeping my tone neutral." I stood by the door, arms crossed, refusing to step closer. Ethan's gaze flickered with something, hope, maybe, but I offered nothing. "Your parents are worried. You're shutting them out, refusing treatment. Why?" He looked away, jaw tightening. "What's the point? The doctors say I might never walk again." "Sophie, she hasn't even called." His voice cracked on her name, and I felt a flicker of pity, quickly smothered by the memory of his dying words. "You're just a nanny." Before I could respond, a sharp knock interrupted. Sophie stood in the doorway, her dancer's poise flawless, her expression fabulous. She wore a sleek dress, her beauty starkly contrasting with the sterile room. Ethan's face lit up, a spark of his old self. "Sophie, you're here," he breathed, struggling to sit straighter. I stepped back, my role as observer clear. This was the moment I'd orchestrated, unveiling her true motives. Sophie crossed her arms, staying near the door. "Ethan, I only came because Emily messaged me. Let's make this quick." Her words hit like a slap. Ethan's smile faltered. "What do you mean? I thought, after everything..." Sophie cut him off, her voice icy. "Everything? You mean the accident you caused? You're a bad driver, Ethan, trying to drag me into your mess. We broke up. I'm not responsible for you." Her eyes, sharp with ambition, betrayed her. I saw it now. Her visit wasn't about care but maintaining her image, ensuring the Weiss's wealth remained within reach. In my past life, I'd never seen her cruelty so clearly. Ethan's breath hitched, his hands gripping the bedsheet. "Sophie, please, I did this for you. I love you." His voice broke and tears spilled down his cheeks, a vulnerability I'd never witnessed, not even when he died in my past life. Sophie's lip curled, her disdain palpable. "Love? You're clinging to something that's over. I have my own life and my dreams. I'm not tying myself to a hospital bed." She turned, her heels clicking as she walked out, leaving Ethan staring after her, shattered. I stood frozen, the scene both satisfying and unsettling. Part of me relished Ethan's pain, a karmic echo of the betrayal he'd inflicted on me. Yet the girl who'd once loved him ached at his tears, a ghost of my past self. I pushed the feeling down, reminding myself of his cruelty, how he'd called me a nanny, given my savings to Sophie. "Emily," he whispered, his voice raw. "Why did she come just to hurt me?" I met his gaze, my own eyes hard. "Because she never cared, Ethan. You chased a fantasy, and it cost you everything." He flinched, my words a mirror to his reality. I turned to leave, and my duty to the Weiss was fulfilled. At the door, I paused, glancing back. Ethan's tears had stopped, his face blank, as if something inside him had broken. I felt no triumph, only a weary detachment. The Weiss's pain had brought me here, but Ethan's suffering was his own. As I walked out, I overheard a nurse mention Sophie's swift exit, her car speeding away. I pulled out my phone, texting Mrs. Way. "I saw Ethan, he's struggling, but I can't stay. I'm starting an aerospace camp soon." Her reply was quick. "Thank you, Emily. Follow your dreams." The hospital faded behind me, the city's pulse steadying my own. Sophie's mask had slipped, and Ethan's illusions lay in ruins. I felt a quiet resolve, tinged with sorrow for the boy I'd once loved and the family caught in his wake. But my path was clear. I'd return to my studies, and my future would be bright with possibilities. Ethan's world could crumble, but mine would rise, built on the strength of a second chance. June 15, 2005 pulsed with the restless hum of summer. I was packing for an aerospace summer camp, my room a mosaic of textbooks and star charts, each item a step toward my reclaimed future. The college entrance exams were a triumph behind me, and Sophie's cruel rejection of Ethan at the hospital had shattered his illusions, a karmic justice I'd orchestrated from a distance. But the Way family's suffering lingered in my thoughts. Mrs. Way's desperate plea, Mr. Way's hollow eyes. I'd vowed to stay detached, yet their pain tethered me to a past I wanted to forget. As I folded a sweater, my phone rang, Mrs. Way's name flashing on the screen. "Emily, please," she sobbed, her voice barely coherent over the wail of sirens. "Ethan's on the hospital roof, threatening to jump. He found out Sophie is dating someone else. He won't listen to us. Come quickly." My heart sank, not for Ethan, but for the Weiss, caught in the wreckage of his obsession. I'd have rushed to save him in my past life, sacrificing my dreams for his survival. I hesitated, reborn, the weight of my new life pulling against their despair. But Mrs. Way's anguish pierced me. I grabbed my jacket, texting my parents, "Going to St. Mary's. Ethan's in trouble." The hospital was chaotic, police cars flashing, paramedics unrolling mats below the 15th floor roof. I pushed through the crowd, my pulse racing, and took the elevator up. On the roof, Ethan sat in his wheelchair, perilously close to the edge, his hospital gown flapping in the wind. His face was gaunt, his eyes wild with a pain I recognized from my past life, when I'd loved him despite his cruelty. Mr. and Mrs. Way stood nearby, pleading, their voices hoarse. "Ethan, come back," Mrs. Way cried. "We love you, please." Ethan's gaze flicked to me, a flicker of recognition. "Emily," he rasped. "You see what she's done? Sophie's with someone else. What's left for me?" His words stirred a ghost of pity, the old Emily who'd believed in his promises. But I remembered his betrayal, calling me a nanny, giving my savings to Sophie. I pulled out my phone, recording the scene, and sent it to Sophie with a message. "If you don't want his death on your conscience, get here now." This wasn't about saving Ethan, but forcing Sophie to face the consequences of her manipulation. "Ethan," I said, my voice steady, "you're more than Sophie. Don't let her win by giving up." He shook his head, tears streaming. "I'm nothing now. My legs, my future, gone. You're going to Beihan, Emily. Everyone moves on but me." His words stung, not because I cared, but because they echoed my past life sacrifices. I'd given up Beihan for him, and he'd repaid me scornfully. Yet, seeing him teeter on the edge, I felt a pang of sorrow. Not for the man he'd become, but for the boy I'd once known. Sirens wailed below as Sophie's car screeched into the lot. She burst onto the roof, panting, her eyes flashing with a mix of fear and rage. "Ethan, don't you dare!" she shouted, hands on her knees. "I'm here, okay? Don't jump. I'll stay with you." Her voice trembled, but her expression betrayed her, a calculated performance to protect her image and the Weiss wealth. Ethan's eyes lit up, hope flickering. "You mean it?" he asked, his voice small. Sophie nodded, stepping closer. "I couldn't face you before, but I'm here now. Come down." The police edged forward, ready to pull him back. Ethan wavered, then let them guide him from the ledge. Mrs. Way collapsed, sobbing, as Mr. Way held her. Sophie stood apart, her face tight with resentment, her promise a lie I saw through. Ethan clung to her words, blind to her deceit, just as he'd been in my past life. I stopped recording, my chest heavy. Part of me wanted to scream at him, to shake him awake, but I knew it was futile. He'd chosen Sophie, even now, and I'd chosen myself. As the paramedics wheeled Ethan away, Mrs. Way grabbed my hand. "Thank you, Emily. You saved him." I shook my head, gently pulling free. I didn't. Sophie did. Or at least he thinks she did. I walked away, the hospital's chaos fading behind me. The pity I'd felt for Ethan warred with my resolve to stay free. I'd have stayed in my past life, tending his wounds, losing myself. Now I felt the weight of my dreams, aerospace, Beihan, a life untainted by his pain. I boarded the bus home, the city lights blurring past. Sophie's manipulation had bought Ethan time, but it wouldn't save him. My path was clear, and no one, not even the ghost of my old love, would pull me back. July 1st, 2005. shimmered with the promise of summer, the air alive with possibility. I sat at my desk, surrounded by packed suitcases for the aerospace summer camp, my heart buoyant with a joy I hadn't known in my past life. The college entrance exam results had arrived that morning, and the number on the screen, 703, had brought tears to my eyes. It was enough for Beihan University, my dream school, where I'd study aerospace engineering. In my past life, I'd scored 400, my dreams crushed to save Ethan. Now, reborn, I'd reclaimed my future, and the weight of that victory felt like flying. My parents burst into the room, their faces alight with pride. "Emily, 703, my mother exclaimed, pulling me into a hug. "You did it." My father, usually reserved, grinned widely. "Aerospace is yours, kiddo. We always knew you could." I clung to them, sobbing, not just for the score, but for the second chance that had rewritten my fate. I'd faced their disappointment in my past life, choosing Ethan's recovery over my potential. Their joy mirrored mine, a shared triumph that healed old wounds. Yet, a shadow lingered. Ethan's recent suicide attempt, Sophie's manipulative promise to stay, and the Way family's ongoing pain. As we celebrated, my mother's phone buzzed with a message from Mrs. Way. "Ethan's engaged to Sophie," she read, her brow furrowing. "The Weiss offered 3 million yuan in college funding to seal it." My father shook his head. "That girl's trouble. She'll bleed them dry." I shrugged, the news distant. Sophie's greed was no surprise. Her engagement was a ploy to secure the Weiss wealth, not love. Ethan's blind devotion would cost him, but it wasn't my burden. Still, the Weiss's sacrifice stung, a reminder of their undeserved suffering. That evening, my parents threw a party to celebrate my acceptance to Beihan. Our backyard glowed with fairy lights, filled with friends and relatives. Classmates laughed, toasting my success, while my aunt pinned a corsage on my dress, declaring me the future astronaut. I beamed, the warmth of their love a stark contrast to my past life, where I'd been Ethan's overlooked nanny. But as I cut the cake, I noticed Ethan in his wheelchair at the crowd's edge, invited out of courtesy to the Weiss. His eyes were hollow, his face gaunt, a ghost of the boy I'd once loved. "Emily, take a photo," a friend called. The group gathered, pulling me to the center. Someone shouted, "Ethan, join us! You and Emily are practically siblings!" Two classmates lifted his wheelchair, placing him at the photo's edge. Ethan's lips pressed into a thin line, his hands gripping the armrests. He'd been the star in my past life. Rich, handsome, always centered. Now he was sidelined, his dreams as broken as his body. I met his gaze briefly, seeing a flicker of envy, and felt a pang, not of guilt, but of closure. This was the life I'd chosen, and he was no part of it. After the photo, I stepped away, needing air. The night was cool, stars faint above the city's glow. I thought of my past life, when Ethan's betrayal had shattered me. He'd mocked my nursing degree, saying, "If you're not a maid, what are you?" His words had haunted me, but my 703 score proved him wrong. I could have been an aerospace engineer all along. Yet, seeing him tonight, diminished and alone, stirred a quiet sorrow, not for the man who'd hurt me, but for the boy I'd loved, whose choices had led him here. I let the feeling pass, like a cloud drifting across the sky. My mother found me, her smile soft. "You okay, sweetheart? You've been so strong." I nodded, my voice steady. "I'm happy, Mom. Really, I'm glad I'm not that girl anymore, the one who gave up everything for him." She hugged me, her warmth grounding. "You're our star, Emily. Don't ever forget it." I smiled, the weight of my past lifting. Ethan's engagement to Sophie, the Weiss's struggles, they were their story, not mine. My story was Beihan, aerospace, a life built on my terms. As the party wound down, I glanced at Ethan one last time. He sat alone, staring at the ground, Sophie absent, likely plotting her subsequent gain. I turned away, rejoining my friends, their laughter pulling me back to the present. The stars above seemed brighter, a map to my future. In my past life, I'd lost myself to Ethan's pain. Now, I stood tall, my triumph a shield against his shadows. Tomorrow, I'd leave for camp, my dreams within reach. For the first time, I felt truly free, my heart soaring toward a horizon mine alone. July 10th, 2005, buzzed with midsummer heat, the city was alive with motion. I was back from the aerospace summer camp, my mind brimming with orbital mechanics and star charts, each lesson a brick in the future I was building. My 703 exam score had secured my place at Beihan University, a triumph that still warmed my heart. But the shadow of Ethan's world lingered. His engagement to Sophie, the Way family's financial ruin, and Sophie's manipulative hold over them. I'd vowed to stay detached, but the Wace's undeserved suffering gnawed at me, urging me to act, not for Ethan, but for them. I was walking home from the library, my bag heavy with books, when I spotted Sophie on a busy street, her arm linked with a tall, familiar figure. It was Jake, a classmate from high school, his grin smug as they strolled past designer boutiques. Sophie's outfit screamed wealth, designer sunglasses, a sleek handbag, far beyond her family's means. I ducked behind a newsstand, my curiosity piqued. In my past life, I'd ignored Sophie's actions, focusing only on Ethan's recovery. Now, reborn, I saw her for what she was, a predator, draining the Weiss to fuel her ambitions. I followed at a distance, their voices carrying over the crowd. "Do you think the Weiss will cough up 6 million?" Jake asked, chuckling. "That's bold, even for you." Sophie laughed, her voice sharp. "As long as Ethan's hooked, they'll pay." That bet we made, breaking up to see if he'd ditch the exam, was genius. He's paralyzed, and they're desperate. The engagement's just the start. We'll study abroad on their dime. Jake kissed her cheek, his hand playful, all thanks to Ethan's ruin. "You're a mastermind." My blood ran cold. The breakup wasn't just calculated, it was a cruel wager designed to cripple Ethan and secure the Weiss wealth. Sophie's greed had roots in her past, a childhood of poverty that drove her to see love as leverage. She'd played Ethan perfectly, and now she and Jake were siphoning the Weiss's future. In my past life, I'd been blind to her schemes, left destitute when Ethan gave her my savings. This time, I wouldn't let her destroy the Weiss unchecked. I snapped photos with my phone, capturing their intimacy, their laughter. Then I stepped forward, blocking Sophie's path. "Sophie," I said, my voice calm but firm. She froze, her smile vanishing, guilt flickering in her eyes. Jake frowned, stepping closer. "What's this about?" I held up my phone, the photos glaring. "Ethan might be a fool, but Mr. and Mrs. Way aren't. You've bled them dry. 3 million for your engagement, now 6 for your study abroad. This ends now, or these photos go to the Weiss, the police, and every classmate who'll spread the word." Sophie's face twisted with anger, but fear undercut her bravado. "You're meddling, Emily. Ethan's the one who won't let go. He guilt-tripped me into staying. This is his fault." Her words echoed her hospital visit, deflecting blame, but I saw through her. "I said you made a bet to ruin him," my voice low. "You broke him for money, and now you're draining his parents. They should be retiring, not borrowing to fund your scams. Hurt Ethan if you want, but leave the Weiss alone, or everything you've gained goes up in smoke." Jake tugged Sophie's arm. "Let's go. She's bluffing." But Sophie hesitated, her eyes locked on mine. She knew I wasn't. The Weiss's trust in me, built over years of friendship, gave my threat weight. "Fine," she spat. "I'll back off, for now, but stay out of my life." She turned, pulling Jake away, her heels clicking on the pavement. I watched them go, my heart pounding with triumph and unease. I'd protected the Weiss, but Sophie's greed wouldn't vanish easily. She'd regroup, and I'd need to stay vigilant. I walked home, the city's pulse steadying me. The confrontation had stirred memories of my past life, how I'd begged Sophie to visit Ethan, hoping to ease his pain, only to be betrayed. Now I'd acted not for him, but for his parents, whose kindness had warmed me even in my darkest days. Yet, a flicker of doubt lingered. Was I slipping back into their drama, risking my hard-won freedom? I shook my head, grounding myself. This was different. I'd drawn a line, not crossed it. At home, I found my mother in the kitchen, her smile soft. "You look tired, Emily. Everything okay?" I nodded, setting my bag down and tying up loose ends, Mom. "I'm ready for Beihan." She hugged me, her warmth a reminder of why I fought. The Weiss's pain had spurred me to act, but my future, aerospace, stars, a life untainted by Ethan's chaos, was my anchor. Sophie's mask was cracking, and I'd ensured the Weiss had a chance to breathe. I felt a quiet resolve as I climbed the stairs to my room. My triumph was mine, and no one would steal it again. August 31st, 2005, glowed with the promise of a new chapter. Tomorrow, I'd board a train to Beihan University, my aerospace dreams within reach, my 703 exam score a hard-won victory. My room was a chaos of packed boxes, textbooks, star charts, a telescope, each item a symbol of the future I'd reclaimed. I'd sacrificed everything for Ethan in my past life, only to be betrayed. Now, reborn, I'd confronted Sophie's greed, protecting the Way family from her schemes. But as I taped a box shut, a knock at the door shattered the evening's calm. I opened it to find Ethan, gaunt in his wheelchair, his eyes hollow yet piercing. "Emily," he said, his voice low, trembling with something I couldn't place. "Can we talk? Just a walk?" I froze, seeing him stirring a ghost of the girl who'd loved him. In my past life, I'd have pushed his wheelchair without question, my heart tethered to his pain. I hesitated, my mother's voice echoing from the kitchen. "Emily, who is it?" I called back. "Just a friend, Mom. I'll be quick." She appeared, frowning, but I waved her off, stepping outside. "5 minutes, Ethan," I said, keeping my hands at my sides, refusing to touch the wheelchair. The neighborhood streets were quiet, the air thick with the scent of impending rain. Ethan rolled beside me, his wheels creaking. "Congratulations," he said, his tone bitter. "Beihan, your dream school." I nodded, distant. "Thanks." He pulled out his exam admission ticket, crumpled and worn, and held it out. "This was my dream too, Emily. Beihan. But I'll never get there now." His voice cracked, and I saw a flicker of the boy I'd known, bright, ambitious, before Sophie's betrayal and his accident. But I didn't take the ticket. "Maybe Sophie will take you someday," I said, brushing at an imaginary mosquito. Ethan's eyes narrowed, a strange intensity in them. "Emily, I know," he whispered. "I'm reborn too, like you. I remember everything, our marriage, your sacrifices, how I hurt you. Sophie's lies, my mistakes. I see it all now." His words hit like thunder, confirming my suspicion from his hospital desperation. The cosmic light that had granted me a second chance had touched him too, a cruel twist of fate. My heart raced, not with hope, but with a cold clarity. He was no longer just the boy who'd betrayed me. He was a mirror of my rebirth, yet trapped in his ruin. "If I end things with Sophie," he continued, his voice urgent, "could we start over? You cared for me once. I can walk again with you. I'll build a business and give you a better life. Emily, I'm sorry for last time." His plea was a warped echo of my past life when I'd believed his promises. But now I saw the truth. Even reborn, he sought to use me, to reclaim his glory at my expense. I laughed, the sound sharp in the quiet night. "You think I'd give up aerospace for you again? You squeezed every ounce of me dry, Ethan, and called me a nanny. Why should I be your maid again?" He flinched, his face paling. You remember too," he stammered. "I was wrong, Emily. I see it now." I stepped closer, my eyes locked on his. "Yes, Ethan. I'm reborn. I'm an aerospace major at Beihan and on my way to the stars. You? You're a disabled man who chased a fantasy and lost. What do you have that makes you think you deserve me?" My words were a blade cutting through his delusion. His hands gripped the wheelchair, knuckles white, as a flash of lightning split the sky, illuminating his unhinged expression. "Emily, please," he begged, his voice breaking. "I was wrong last time, I'm sorry." I turned, walking back to my house, and the first drops of rain fell. "Stay out there, Ethan," I said over my shoulder. "Maybe the rain will wash away your regrets." I shut the door, thunder clapping as my mother appeared, holding a glass of milk. "Someone's calling you," she said. "Didn't you hear?" I shook my head, my voice steady. "It was just the storm, Mom. I heard nothing." Rain poured outside, and I imagined Ethan, drenched and alone, his apologies lost to the wind. Inside, I sat on my bed, my heart heavy, yet resolute. Ethan's rebirth changed nothing. He'd seen his mistakes, but his plea was self-serving, a desperate grasp for redemption through me. I'd have softened, believing in his change in my past life. I saw him for what he was, a man who'd always choose himself. The sorrow I felt wasn't for him, but for the girl I'd been, who'd loved him unquestioningly. I opened a star chart, tracing constellations. I'd leave for Beihan tomorrow, and my future would be bright. Ethan's ghost could haunt me, but it wouldn't hold me back. September 1st, 2005 dawned crisp and clear, the morning I'd leave for Beihan University to begin my aerospace journey. My suitcases stood ready, packed with dreams, textbooks, a telescope, a star chart, each a testament to the future I'd reclaimed. Last night, Ethan's reborn plea had stirred old ghosts, but my rejection had severed the last threads of my past life. I was no longer the girl who'd sacrificed everything for him. As I checked my train ticket, a commotion outside jolted me, sirens wailing, tires screeching. My mother peered through the window. "What now?" she muttered. We stepped outside, the neighborhood pulsing with chaos. Police cars and an ambulance clogged the street, lights flashing against the Way family's house. My father's face paled. "It's the Weiss," he said, slamming on the brakes as we pulled closer. My stomach twisted, Ethan's words from last night echoing. "I'm reborn too." Had his desperation turned violent? Neighbors whispered, and I caught fragments. Blood, a fight, someone dead. My mother grabbed my arm. "Emily, stay back." But I needed to know. Paramedics emerged, wheeling out a stretcher draped in a white sheet. Mrs. Way's wail pierced the air, and Mr. Way held her as she collapsed. Ethan followed, blood-soaked, his wheelchair pushed by a medic, his face ashen. Beside him was Jake, Sophie's lover, bandaged but alive, his eyes wild. Police swarmed, and one officer was barking, "Secure the scene!" My father, called Mr. Way, had an urgent voice. "Tom, what happened?" The answer came later, at the police station, where we went to support the Weiss. My train departure was delayed. Jake's confession spilled out under pressure. "It was last night," he stammered. "Sophie and I were at Ethan's. His parents were at the company. We were messing around. Right in front of him," Ethan snapped. "He's reborn," he said. "Knew Sophie played him. He grabbed a knife and came at us in the dark. I fought back, and Sophie, she stabbed him, said it was self-defense. I didn't mean for anyone to die." The officer slammed the table. "Then why's there a body?" Jake's voice broke. "Ethan's still alive, barely. Sophie, she's gone. I didn't know she'd bleed out." My breath caught. Sophie, dead by her hand, her greed and betrayal were her undoing. In my past life, she'd taken everything, Ethan's assets, my savings, living lavishly while I scraped by. Now, karma had struck, her schemes unraveling in blood. Clinging to life, Ethan lashed out, his reborn awareness fueling a final desperate act. I felt no pity for Sophie, only a grim satisfaction. But the Weiss's anguish, Mrs. Way's sobs, Mr. Way's haunted stare, cut deep. They'd lost their son's future, their wealth, and now faced this tragedy. At the station, Mr. Way approached, his voice hollow. "Emily, Ethan's in surgery. He's calling for you. Please, one last time." I shook my head, my resolve ironclad. "I'm sorry, Mr. Way, I can't. I'm leaving for Beihan." My father nodded, lying for me. "She's got a train to catch, Tom." I turned away, the weight of my choice heavy but right. I'd have run to Ethan in my past life, losing myself in his pain. Now I chose my future, the stars waiting beyond his chaos. We left for the station, the city blurring past. My mother's phone buzzed at 5 a.m. the next day, a message from Mrs. Way. "Ethan's gone. He didn't make it." I stared at the words, my lips pressed tight. No tears came, only a quiet release. Like mine, Ethan's reborn life had offered a chance to change, but he'd clung to Sophie, to vengeance, and it had consumed him. I texted back, "Please take care of Mr. and Mrs. Way." My mother hugged me, sensing my closure. "You're free now, Emily," she whispered. 4 years later, in June 2009, I graduated from Beihan with honors and was accepted into a combined master's and PhD program in aerospace engineering. The Weiss had sold their home and moved to a smaller town, and their company went bankrupt under the scandal's weight. Sophie's death had led to Jake's conviction, her family shamed, and her dreams of wealth in dust. I stood on Beihan's campus, the night sky a canvas of stars. In my past life, I'd been Ethan's nanny, my potential buried. Now, I was Emily, unbound, my eyes on the cosmos. I traced Orion's belt, a vow forming, "Ethan, Sophie, may we never meet again, in this life or any other." My heart was light, my journey complete. The pain of my past had forged me, but but it no longer held me. I stepped forward, ready to soar, the universe mine to conquer.